All right. Well, joining me now is former Secret Service Special Agent Mike Matranga, along with retired FBI Special Agent Richard Kolko. Gentlemen, great to be with you. Thank you so much for your time. Mike, I want to start with you, continuing on about this suspect. I mean, there's still so many questions about how that was able to happen on Saturday night. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. This suspect, though, was able to get so close to the president and his entire chain of command. And several Republican lawmakers, like Senator Lindsey Graham, he stressed the importance of building the White House ballroom. Here's what he had to say. Let's listen.
Anybody who suggests that we have an event like this in the times in which we live, in a facility like Hilton, that's crazy. We're going to have to accommodate the times in which we live. And Eric, you nailed it. You did. There are people out there that are nuts, being driven to take up violence is an acceptable outcome in too many people's opinion. So no, we're going to build this facility.
All right, Mike, I want to get your take on that. Do you think that a new facility would be the answer to protecting the president and his cabinet and also, members of the press that were there?
Yeah, absolutely. For the last several decades, this has been a recommendation of the United States Secret Service is that these large events where the president, the vice president, and cabinet members are heavily condensed into one room with the current threat landscape and with the rising threat landscape over the last couple of decades, we've been stating that this has been needed. And, I think it's politically advantageous at the moment because of the ballroom and all of the political animosity going on between the left and the right of whether we should build it and whether we shouldn't build it. But what I would tell you is that there would have been absolutely zero chance that Cole Thomas Allen would have been able to breach anywhere near the White House at that moment should that ballroom have been there and this dinner had been, there at the ballroom. So, I think it's ironic that we have all these politicians out here right now talking about what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing. I think they should let the Secret Service focus on security, and they should worry about how they're going to get these men and women paid who have, sacrificed their lives and continue to do that on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And Richard, I want to jump off of what Mike just said as we still facing this DHS shutdown, Secret Service agents not getting paid at this moment. Obviously, it seems to me a huge safety risk, especially for the President of the United States. Richard, your reaction?
I think we lost him.
I think that we lost him, Mike, but I want to get your take on that because you brought it up, and it's really a huge point of contention there.
Yeah, here's the deal. The men and women of the Secret Service are just as committed today as they were in 1865 when the Secret Service was stood up by Abraham Lincoln. And whether they're getting paid or not, they're going to fulfill their mission. But, I will tell you, it's very disheartening to hear politicians talk about what we should be doing or what we shouldn't be doing, the men and women there, when they're not doing their job. And that's just quite frankly how I feel as an American citizen and as a former United States Secret Service agent. I still have a lot of friends that are there that are continuing to sacrifice. They're waking up every day. They're putting themselves in harm's way, as they should, and that's the oath that they took. But it's really hard to listen to politicians, talking about or criticizing when they're not doing their job and performing at their best ability and fulfilling the mission in which they were elected to do, and that's represent all Americans, not just their parties.
Absolutely. Another thing I want to bring up is the suspect. He had talked about really just how lax security was that night and kind of poking fun of it in his manifesto. From what you've seen and from what you've heard, is that your assessment?
I don't agree with that at all. Listen, we've been stating for a very long time that having these events in public hotels is an increased risk. This is why the ballroom needs to be built. But, to piggyback off of what you said about his comments about it being lax, he doesn't understand. And what he absolutely saw the day before when he checked in, he didn't see the Secret Service ramping up the security. And what I'll tell you is that I've watched over the last 4 or 5 days. I've contributed to probably 18 interviews already. No one seems to be reporting the facts. And the facts is that, as these particular events occur, we have these massive, checkpoints throughout the facility. As the president, the vice president, the cabinet members, and all of the occupants are in and the program begins, then we start to scale back on the magnetometers because no longer are we allowing anyone to enter. And then we post those particular mag checkpoints with armed officers, which is exactly what was happening here. And so multiple news agencies have continued to say that he's breached a mag. That is not the truth. He never breached an operational checkpoint. He would have never breached an operational checkpoint. That checkpoint was in the process of being deconstructed and then posted. The other thing that people are failing to understand is the majority of those officers that were there, at least the 3 on the wall that you saw, those are TSA agents. Those are unarmed TSA agents. So, from my observations having done this for a very long time, the only individuals that were armed there were the ones who pulled their weapons out that were beyond the mag box checkpoint. And he saw an opportunity. So, listen, could it have been done better? Probably. Should they have been paying attention a little bit more? Maybe. But I'll tell you that the officer who did draw his weapon, who saw him first, saw him moving at a high rate of speed. And the fact of the matter is he would have never, ever, ever breached that ballroom door. There's unseen things that the Secret Service has in place that I'm not willing to talk about, other than the fact that there's technical components inside that room. There was the FBI's protective detail. There was the Marshals protective detail. You had the president, the vice president, both of their counter assault teams. You had additional, 12 special operations guys in there as well. I was one of them at some point when I was on Team 5 and Team 6. People fail to understand that the Secret Service takes an oath to protect the president and the vice president. In the process, we're there to take an oath to protect the people that are attending these venues. Could there have been collateral damage of people that were bystanders in the lobby? Possibly. But I assure you, and I stand firm, that I do not believe that the president and the vice president were ever in any immediate danger. And what people also don't understand is that there was a significant distance between where the president and vice president was and where this mag checkpoint was. It was a layer higher, a different floor, and it was at least a couple hundred yards away, minimum.
All right, and we're going to leave right there. Mike, great to speak with you and get your insights. Really appreciate it.